And hello once again, everybody. It's Friday. It's time for another anime live stream. And yes, we've changed things up a little bit here in the secret anime moon base. Hope you all had a great week. This is what my week was like. Yep. Yep. It happened again. It has been a week for me. Quite a week at work. Oh, dealing with a lot of stuff going on with people. So yes, got all the manga in the back, which is kind of nice. Folks can now look and see what's going on there. Got stuff all rearranged and reworked to various degrees here in the studio. So this is whiskey. Some very nice whiskey, which I need a bit of now at the end of the week, which is fine. That is the way of things. So how have everyone else's weeks been? What's new in your worlds? I've been keeping up with some of the anime of the season. Nothing too shocking, just enjoying some of the lighter shows of this season. I think what else. Lusting after that Cheryl Gnome figurine, or not figurine, figure, life size figure. The $24,000 Cheryl Gnome figure, which seems like a lot, but hey, you get a life size Cheryl Gnome from Macross Frontier. Who wouldn't want that, right? And no, I'm not going to buy it, but that is a thing that exists that people can actually buy. I suspect it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, 5 people will buy this, but they put it out there for fun. Conception Plus. I'm sorry, Conception. Conception. That sounds familiar. What is that? So it's sort of a dating sim-esque thing, not an eroge, but where you're making various girls want you, want to spend time with you, right? Interesting. Wasn't there an anime adaptation of that a little while ago, like last year? Yeah, Rent a Full Size Figure. There we go. Yeah, I remember seeing the first episode of that and going, this is weird. It is literally called Conception, and it's all about getting these girls to be attracted to you, but there's no like actual naughty bits. Kind of odd. Wonder if it's in that middle ground where it's kind of, you know, it's ecchi, but it's not really ecchi. Like it's we're not really implying anything. It's just called Conception, right? Um, so you certainly get that now and again with video games. Kind of skirting the line of that, where it's ecchi elements, but not actually ecchi. Just funny. But yeah. We needed stuff this week. We didn't get it at work. So I've been experiencing that. What was the Gynax video game? It was kind of the trope codifier, or the codifier of the genre. Was it a Princess Maker, where you're sort of raising various princesses, and then I believe there are multiple generations to that, so it gets a little weird. In that you're training multiple generations, like you're training your daughter, not like literal daughter, but still. I believe that was the one. Something like Princess Maker. I forget. But yeah, I did have some fun luck this week. Is luck ever non-fun? Yeah, I guess it can be. Played around with various streaming services and found a streaming system that I think will work pretty well for allowing me to live stream anime. Just sort of peer to peer, right? So it's not public per se. But over this weekend over the Discord, I may pop in some links to stream some anime. There's a lot of weird like 80s and 90s stuff that I'd love to share with folks. So if you're interested, hop on the Discord, and hopefully this weekend I get some time to show off some of the oddities of the 90s. Excuse me. I may have a copy of this somewhere. We're watching Maze. There's a very ecchi, extremely ecchi, weird 90s OVA. Gloriously trashy is the way that I described it. And trashy in kind of a fun way, of, very, very pervy way. And that's the kind of stuff I kind of like to deal with, not necessarily in the ecchi sense, but just some of the odd corners of anime history. Be fun to expose people to all the bizarreness of the 90s. 90s was a bizarre time for anime. You people were able to explore some really weird concepts, weird storylines, which I think is a lot of fun. I'm gonna make some homemade ramen. Nice. I actually have a recipe for some homemade udon, which I might do here pretty soon. Excuse me, that's not a good sign. I should not be yawning 9 minutes into the live stream. But it has been that kind of a week. And speaking of maybe, do y'all hear that? Sorry, guys. I did not. Okay, hold on. That sucks. Hold on. We'll do it again. Thank you for saying something in the chat. I was not seeing. I noticed that as I was going along. Dope. Okay. We'll get it. We'll get it. We'll get it. We'll make it work. Okay. There we go. Start there. Start there. Doop. Take another drink. Yeah. Welcome back to the anime news for November 8th, 2019. On Tuesday, Bushiroad announced both an anime and a game project for the all-male band Argonavis, I don't know, from their Bang Dream franchise. The anime will broadcast in spring of 2020, although the format was not specified in the announcement. TV, OVA, don't know. The game, titled Argonavis from the Bang Dream AA side, will contain both rhythm and adventure game elements, and will come out in the latter half of 2020, with a storyline taking place after that of the anime. 2 new boy bands were also revealed in the announcement, and will feature in the game alongside the original Argonavis. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, even though the new anime and game will be an expansion of the Bang Dream franchise, don't plan to see any crossovers with the original girl bands in the new media. The president of Bushiroad clarified previously on Twitter that this male version takes place in a different world setting than the original and stands alone as a completely separate work. There can be no crossing of boys and girls. They don't mix. They can't be done. No. Craziness. Over the spring and summer, digital manga and anime platform Comic Festa hosted a new manga contest for both pro and amateur manga authors, with an anime adaptation offered as the grand prize. The contest asked for 16 plus pages of manga in either the teens love, boys love, or dansemuke, aimed at male readers, genres. The winners of the contest were announced this week, with Musumi Onigiri's I Want to Be Eaten by a Wolf, that's the title, taking the first prize. The manga will receive a serialization and printed volumes, along with the anime adaptation. Now, the anime itself will run in the Comic Festa anime series of anime shorts. I Want to Be Eaten by a Wolf falls into the teens love category and tells the story of a steamy student-teacher romance. And if it follows the typical trend of Comic Festa anime, the regular edition will air on television, with the more explicit complete edition available through Comic Festa's Anime Zone. So definitely look forward to being eaten by a wolf. 2 hopeful future animations have launched crowdfunding projects recently, and I always like to see what's going on in the crowdfunding world. So let's take a look at that. A crowdfunding project opened yesterday for the Mokuri Project, a virtual reality and 3D CG animation project about the cute cat-like character Mokuri. The character was designed in 2008 by Akihito Tsukushi, the original creator of the Made in Abyss series. Look familiar? To appear in a whole new type of world. Mokuri is a creature that has lived a long time and who loves to craft, apparently. The project is looking for first supporters, or pioneers, to join the project and help build up Mokuri World. These pioneers will be able to learn about the project's latest updates through reading production journals and attending online conferences. Interesting. Yoshitada Fukuhara, the animation producer of Kimono Friends, is the project's general producer and is leading the crowdfunding project. So, really an interesting idea. Hope that gets some traction and some legs. Neat seeing an idea that's not just, we're going to make an anime TV series. Meanwhile, manga creator Rensuke Ushikiri launched a crowdfunding campaign to fund his mini horror comedy anime Zashiki Warashi no Tatami-chan, or Tatami-chan the Guest Room Spirit. Ushikiri plans to not only direct the anime, but to draw the art, write the scripts, and even to voice the titular character all himself. This one-man production team would be joined by Shun Tokuda, who would edit and composite the animation, and Zero G, who would actually produce it. The, quote, pleasant horror gag comedy, end quote, follows the life of Tatami-chan, a ghost living in Tokyo among humans, as well as other spirits and supernatural entities. Tatami-chan must deal with everyday tasks like job hunting and paying bills, along with other more otherworldly matters. According to the crowdfunding site, the project has been in development for 2 years now and already has the equivalent of 12 episodes scripted out. A lot of planning. The team hopes to unveil the project sometime next year. Again, hope it works out. Meanwhile, start saving up your money and brushing up on your basic Japanese. Studio Ghibli and the Chunichi Shimbun newspaper have announced the establishment of Ghibli Park Inc., the company that will manage and operate an upcoming Studio Ghibli theme park. The new company will also produce new merchandise for the park and run the park's restaurant and cafe. The park itself will be located in Aichi Prefecture's Expo Park, which was the site of the 2005 World's Fair. There's still World's Fairs? The Expo Park already features Satsuki and Mei's house, a replica of the main character's house from My Neighbor Totoro. Aichi Prefecture and Studio Ghibli will both be funding the Ghibli Park's new operating company. Construction is set to begin on Ghibli Park in 2020, with 3 areas planned to open in the fall of 2022. The Hill of Youth, Giant Ghibli Storehouse, and Dondoko Forest areas. 2 more areas, the Mononoke Village and Witch Valley, will open up about a year later. And in true Ghibli fashion, even the construction work will value the surrounding nature. They plan not to cause damage to the park through felling trees or any other method. Very Hayao Miyazaki of them. Oh boy, that's tempting. On Wednesday, Japanese TV network TV Tokyo published a report of its earnings in the second quarter of this fiscal year, which ended September 30th. During this period, the network's animation division accounted for 16% of their total sales, and this percentage is a nearly 20% increase from what it was this time last year. It's a big jump in 12 months. TV Tokyo cited the growth of overseas business as the reason for this increase. Domestic sales increased only 1.5% from last year, but the overseas sales of TV Tokyo Animation increased by almost 29%, accounting for 71% of their animation profits for the quarter. TV Tokyo sales are especially strong in China and North America. They reported, guess what was their top-selling animation franchise? That's right, Naruto, both in sales and gross profit, with Black Clover and Yu-Gi-Oh! Also in the top 5 of both categories. Do you have any art interest? Are you in Texas? Well, 10,000 Texas schools will be receiving free 6-month copies of the digital manga and illustration software Clip Studio Paint over the next 8 months. You can see it there. Celis, the developer of the program, is working with the nonprofit Texas Computer Education Association to distribute the software. The executive director of TCEA commented that, quote, "This partnership opens up a world of possibilities for Texas students. Having high-quality creative software like Clip Studio Paint, particularly Clip Studio Paint Debut, allows students to learn in engaging ways that help develop a number of skills at once, from learning the basics of technology use to the rudiments of art and design," end quote. It's great seeing the arts and technology being supported like this in schools, and especially great if it can help the medium we love continue to grow and flourish. Let's just be honest about that there. 10,000 schools. Wow, that's a lot. Oops. Sorry. Do you need a vacation but want to stay surrounded by other otaku instead of the general public? Well, you're not alone. Your solution may be departing from Long Beach, California in April. The Power Level Agency, which is clearly over 9,000, is sponsoring Oceanime, whatever, a 4-day anime-themed cruise on a chartered Carnival cruise ship. The trip is designed to inspire fun, friendships, and a sense of community for anime fans, and will feature intimate experiences with Eastern cuisine, art, music, and film. I assume it's not what came into my mind. Events during the trip will include karaoke, game shows, and cosplay. Well, it's going to be tough on a ship. Along with more exclusive types of events not typically available at other events like conventions. Food, live entertainment, and themed parties will also be included, and the ship will make one port stop in Ensenada, Mexico. The trip will take 2,000 passengers and is limited to those aged 21 and over. The first round of ticket sales is currently open and will run until November 24th. You might want to check it out if you're interested, as ticket prices are planned to increase with each round of sales as the trip draws closer. So, yeah, let's hit the oceans with other otaku in an intimate setting. I don't know. All right, let's switch back. Switch back. There we go. The otaku naughty boat. Yep. That's a weird title. All that. Akko, have you ever been to an anime convention? Clearly, you have not. Yeah, anime conventions can get a little rank, as it is. So, not sure what a cruise ship would be like. Be an interesting experience though. But I do wonder. So here's the thing. They say 21 and over. Usually, what that means is there's alcohol being served. So they just 21 and over, and it makes that simpler. Akko, you're being a troll. And kind of an asshole. But yeah, so I suspect it's something where, they're just trying to handle, the fact that there's going to be drinking on board the ship and being, and covering their bases in that way. There's probably not going to be anything like really, really raunchy. I mean, there'll be some 18 plus stuff late at night, right? But yeah, no big deal. Anyway, so that was the news. I also wanted to cover the history a little bit. And see what else is going on here. It's been kind of an interesting week for anime history, but we will see. Actually, let me take a second here. So, I just want to pull up a quick image here. That'll do. And Yuki, there it is. That's not too bad. I actually kind of prefer that one. I'm gonna go with that one. Okay, just 1 second while I pull this stuff back. Dump, and I'll just pull up. I want to do some history, but I didn't have the images right. So I just need to pull up the right stuff so I can display that. But yeah, I don't want to jump right to history. Boy, he looks depressed in that image. Oh, well, what can you do? I've done a cruise ship once, and I really enjoyed it, to my surprise. Because you don't have to be with people the whole time. You can wander around a fair amount, right? Like that's not a big deal. And there are people everywhere, but it's not like you're pressed in, close with everyone on the Tokyo subway in rush hour. It's not nearly that bad. So I could see it being fun. I would have to see what kind of entertainment they're providing, right? Like, karaoke with a bunch of strangers could be a lot of fun, or it could be really cringeworthy. It kind of all depends on how they're handling a lot of the stuff in their in their entertainment. Um, if it's kind of like, hey, we like anime, so here's a group that does events on cruise ships, and we're going to ask them to make it anime themed. Like, they're not necessarily going to know how to do that right. But if it's thoughtfully put together, it could be a lot of fun. Depends on that kind of material, that kind of what kind of activities there are. If they're showing late night anime, that'd be a lot of fun. Not like H stuff, but if they're showing weird anime at midnight, like that'd be a lot of fun to watch with people. Chatting with people about stuff. That'd be kind of interesting. So that's that. I'm not surprised that a wrestling group did a wrestling cruise. That was a financial success. Wrestling just makes money. Professional wrestling is a remarkable thing for how many things they do that work. Obviously, some do not. But don't start talking immediately after drinking whiskey. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. There's another weird thing. You don't really feel the ocean. Cruise ships are big, so there's a certain sense of you're on you're in a massive hotel basically. You're only technically on the water. It's basically a giant island. Okay. You're right. Yeah, that would be great. Do all disaster anime. So what would be good cruise anime? Anime about going out. Certainly Haruhi Suzumiya season 1. Where they all go out to the island. That'd be a good one. Gosh, what are some other good It's funny. I can't think of any anime on a cruise ship. I feel like Agent Aika. Speaking of ecchi, didn't Agent Aika have some kind of boat plot line? Kind of ship plot line? I don't know. Fullmetal Panic Mofu? True. Yeah, that's right. Huh. Interesting. One Piece. Yeah, there we go. One Piece would work really well. I guess pretty much any hot springs episode or any beach episode would be good too. I could go for that on a cruise ship. Girls in bathing suits certainly appropriate for this kind of a thing. Gargantua. I don't know about Gargantua. I mean, yes, that is about being stranded. That is true. Gargantua, it's with an IA instead of UA. But yeah, and I think it's Verdurous Planet. I know too much about anime. It's really weird, right? Like it's very, very odd. Why can I remember that but not like how to code, which is kind of my job. Very strange. All right, let's take a quick break to talk about something else. Welcome to the history of anime. This week in anime history, where I'm talking about two people who were born this week in anime history, beginning with the late great Osamu Tezuka. If you're not familiar with Tezuka, he is considered the godfather of anime and also the godfather of manga. He did not invent Japanese comics or Japanese animation, but it was his comics and his animation that helped to define the style that makes manga so distinctive and makes anime so distinctive. He is credited for inventing at least the modern conception of the samurai manga, magical girl, shonen, all these things that are considered kind of iconic today were, again, Tezuka didn't invent them, but his versions of them became kind of the iconic versions that kickstarted those genres as we know them today. And his Astro Boy animated TV series from 1963 is considered by many, myself included, to be the first anime series. It was the very distinctive style of that show that really established anime as a visual style. And Tezuka was a really remarkable guy. He was a very successful manga creator who became obsessed with animation, and so just saved up a bunch of money to found his own anime studio, built an anime studio, and produced anime, and did so over the course of his life, often in experimental ways. Produced a lot of really interesting anime, and a lot of interesting manga. He produced just huge amounts of manga, just tens of thousands of pages. Crazy. And just a really, really interesting guy. Definitely an auteur, and a guy who could do both, populist anime stuff, very much aimed at the masses, and very experimental work, very personal stuff, high concept works, just the whole gamut. Really, really impressive guy. So if you like the unusual, definitely check out a little bit of Tezuka. Although it's his main period was mid 20th century, so it's mid 20th century stuff. And then also this week was born Yoshiyuki Tomino, in 1941, the legendary creator of Mobile Suit Gundam and a number of other series. Gundam being important because it ushered in the real robot genre, where you have giant robots in a way that wasn't cheesy, that wasn't over the top. It felt grounded and real, and that kind of respected its audience in a way that was very rare for anime at the time. Gundam truly feels like one of the first mature, sophisticated anime in the medium, and that is due in no small part to Tomino's work. And he still continued to make anime for decades hence. He still works in the industry. It's kind of amazing to have somebody who's been around for this long still working in the industry. Obviously, not churning out a new TV series every year, but still around and still talking up this amazing thing that he created. And spawned, Gundam, one of the biggest anime franchises in the world. So, that's a bit of an anime history for you. Hope you found that useful. And if you're looking for some interesting stuff, check these guys out. So, I know you guys know a lot of that stuff, but I'm hoping that these segments are kind of interesting to spark some notes and debate, and some talking, because these folks are cool, and these things going on in history are cool. Yeah, it's amazing that Tomino is still around. I mean, he's not like directing stuff these days, but he still shows up at panels and conventions, and still like produces a few things. Like he'll conceptualize a short film for a Gundam or something, and it's really cool. Somebody who is still around and still cares about it. He did a thing about Makoto Shinkai recently. He did an interview where he complained about Shinkai. And that his Shinkai stuff aren't sufficiently sexualized is the wrong word, but that they kind of stop short of any real strong physical attraction between the characters, it seems, and saying that there's this kind of distance, romantic distance between the characters in Makoto Shinkai's work that he doesn't particularly do. He doesn't particularly see why you do that, which is kind of interesting. And again, it's one of the things where agree or disagree with Tomino, he's commenting on the industry. Like, he has thoughtful things to say. He has, noteworthy things to say about what's actually going on in the industry for somebody who's been around for that long. That's really, really cool. Yeah, passion knows no age. Thanks, Gorilla. I like the camera angle too. One of the cool things is it is configurable. So I can shift this around and move things around. So when you see Workshop Wednesday, you may see a completely different angle. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've got some options. If any of you guys checked out Workshop Wednesday this week, in fact, I was able to get everything moved over into the kitchen, and it's actually this setup just shuffled over into the kitchen. So I have a lot of stuff I can do now, which is really fun. And I'm really excited about this whole live streaming anime thing. In fact, it might be fun tonight after we're done here. It'd be cool to shift over to that. So I might after this live stream, hop into the Discord and link out to that and live stream some wacky old anime. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Always fun to show off some weird stuff. I think I have one or two things in the queue. So the downside is basically I can either stream YouTube stuff that's on YouTube, or I can point to stuff that's in my Google Drive. But I need to upload it to Google Drive and wait for it to process. So I can't just say, oh, here's something from my library and just immediately stream it. There's this multi-step process. So I have to kind of prep stuff and have it all ready to go. But I think I have one or two things out in there. Let me just check actually to see. If not, I could just do some random. I have some stuff. I can just throw some AMVs or such up there, which would be fine. But yeah. What brand of whiskey am I drinking? Suntory whiskey. Thanks to a certain patron. Thank you, patron. Still watching Ideon, JJ. How far into it are you? How does Ideon go? Ideon. Gosh, I'm just starting to remember the theme song to Ideon, and I just can't quite grip onto it. Well, there's only one season of Ideon, just the one TV show. I assume you mean like not the movies yet, just the TV show. Gotcha. Yamazaki whiskey, interesting. Yeah, I'm not an alcohol person, and I say that just out of pure fact. It's just not something that's ever really appealed to me. I like certain things, but I'm not like, ooh, I'm gonna run out and grab some alcohol. So, okay, so you're 13 episodes into the 50 episode run. Gotcha. So a quarter of the way through. Cool. Cool. Alcohol is just the thing. Watching Galaxy Express 3 9s. Nice. I watched a bit of that. Actually, more than a bit. Like a dozen, 15 episodes, something like that. It's but fun. Has its ups and downs. More so than a lot of other anime series. One of the problems with an anthology series, right? You get some shows that really hit you hard and others that just leave you cold. And which would probably be the opposite for other people, but kind of the nature of it. Not a lot of anthology shows these days. The whole anthology episodic idea, and again, Galaxy Express isn't really an anthology series, but it's closer to an anthology series than most other episodic anime. And I can't think of many others these days around that have that structure where you have just one plot per episode, or maybe every 2 episodes, as you're bouncing from place to place or whatever. Weird. Megazone dropped off the streaming. That is a shame. Didn't that come out on DVD recently? Wasn't there a DVD Blu-ray release of Megazone, I think? So that may have affected the streaming rights, may have bounced around. I was talking about that this week in a Business of Anime panel about streaming rights, and talking about people don't quite seem to understand that you don't want your streaming rights locked down forever. As the copyright holder, you don't want to say, oh yes, you can stream this forever, because the value of that streaming deal may be very low right now, but if the show gets hot, suddenly now you're still only getting revenues from the rates that you negotiated 5 years ago. And so so they're raking in the money, but you're getting in none of it. So you want to have those streaming right lengths pretty short. I hear that. I mean, I don't think I have a copy of Megazone. I would That's the kind of show I would probably jump onto a stream for, as opposed to grabbing a physical copy. A lot of anime there that I love, but yeah. Jay, I'm not aware of a significant number of licensors that do that. That sit on the rights for an anime but never release it. Harmony Gold is not sitting on the rights to Macross in that sense. They have the rights to Robotech, but they have the rights to original Macross, and thus that locks up Robotech. But like they're not, they don't have the rights to Macross 7 and are not releasing it as a result of that, right? It's kind of a different connective, different set of connections there. So what shows have Funimation gotten the rights to and not released? Because I'm honestly curious. I just have not heard of that. I know they've been in negotiation for a long time on things, and just didn't get locked down for the longest time. Kadocha was one of those shows where they spent years trying to license that show, and just couldn't quite get the licensing deal nailed. But yeah, and again, I'm sure it happens. I just haven't heard of it happening frequently. So I would love to hear corrections on that, examples of differences. Hybrid Heart Magius Academy Ataraxis. Huh, never heard of it. Interesting. Again, I'm not surprised. That's why I'm talking. That's why I'm asking. Doo-doo-doo. See, this doesn't look to me like they're so Wikipedia is saying that they did plan a home release, a home video release, but then they canceled it, and now they rescheduled it. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Gorilla Monsoon. There's always an anime we've never heard of. I mean, there are hundreds of anime we've never heard of. That's the that's the nuts thing. Yeah, Cautious Hero is still. I mean, that's still airing. So, any kind of rights to that are always going to be a little weird. I do believe that is streaming on their site, Cautious Hero. In fact, I know that, and I know it is because I watched Cautious Hero on Funimation's site. I would debate the word countless, though, Jay. But I hear what you're saying. And I am cautious purely because that sounds like a conspiracy theory that people are pushing on you. It is unlikely that a company would spend money on rights to something and then refuse to make money off of it, right? As a consistent business practice. I'm sure it happens. I'm sure they do stuff and it doesn't come out eventually, but the idea that they're licensing countless shows and then just locking them in a vault with no possibility of spending money on it just seems suspicious. But so why are you not interested in isekai? That's an interesting question, Gorilla. Because I come across people who are like, I don't like isekai, and I'm like, but isekai is just to me, it's a plot point, right? It's just the thing that starts the story. It's the introduction to the adventure. Because there's isekai romance and isekai action and isekai drama and isekai, all sorts of stuff. So I'm trying to understand, like, what is it about isekai that kind of turns people off? That's the thing. See, in what way is it a genre? I don't understand. Now, certainly it's fantasy, right? And if you're not into fantasy, I totally get that. or those kind of fantasy worlds. Um, and again, I'm asking because I'm honestly curious about people about why folks aren't getting it, so I can understand why folks aren't getting it. It's a valid thing to dislike. I'm just trying to understand that. Um, wouldn't most studios buy a number of stories for future development and keep them stored away until they are ready? In what way would they not be ready though? Like if you license an anime series, what would you be waiting for to release them? Why would you? I mean, it's done, it's completed. Release it. Obviously, you got to sub and dub it, but Funimation knows how to do that. That's not going to be a blocker to them. Right? Like, if you're a publisher of books, for example, you'll absolutely pay in advance to a writer to write a book, and you're not going to publish that book until A, the writer's done with it, and A, the editor has kind of worked with the writer to polish it. So that book's not going to come out for years because you're trying to get it, right. So totally agreed there. Begging the series until the genre is hot again. See, I don't see that. I'm not aware, and I haven't seen reports of companies banking on genres, because the folks I've talked to at these companies know enough to know that genres are not predictable, right? That genre may not be hot for another 20 years, so there's no reason to buy that stuff. No, and I hear you, JJ, and that's why I'm asking. Like, let's think through stuff and debate, pluses and minuses. Um, you know, I don't know. Um, okay, so Gorilla, what's an example of an isekai that does that? Where where it's being made the wrong way. Yes, I don't see how isekai is a hybrid of multiple genres. It's a fantasy series where it's a fantasy series involving a character that's reincarnated. Period. To me that's not multiple genres. It's just fantasy with a one small twist. Um, yeah, and again, Gorilla, I appreciate what you're doing. That's why I'm asking, like what are the anime that people point to as the ones that people as I hate this because this is bad fantasy, right? That's what I'm trying to understand is, um, and that's the weird thing. When people complain about isekai, I don't hear them saying this show is bad. And I do believe they think certain shows are bad, but I'm not seeing that people holding up this is the worst thing ever, right? This show shouldn't be made. They complain about the genre, or they complain about isekai as a thing, but not about particular isekai shows. That's what I'm trying to kind of grasp, right? Is what is being done with the isekai formula to piss people off, or to not piss people off, but to make them not care or not interested in that formula. That's what I'm trying to understand. Um, I mean, maybe you could argue the protagonist of the show is often kind of generic, and so isekai is an excuse to have a generic protagonist. Um, Again, um, I haven't noticed the protagonists of isekai being any more bland than any protagonist in any other anime. Right, bland protagonists are have been a problem in anime for decades. Um, Wong, so are you having a problem with the reincarnation thing? Not problem, but is the reincarnation thing that's just not working for you particularly? Yeah, I can see that, Gorilla, where, whether or not the Isekai series is of high quality, the fact that it's Isekai reflects poorly because it is a big trend, and so people assume that because you're doing Isekai, you must be just cashing in. Um, that's funny, Gorilla, because there are only like four Isekai this season. And again, I totally appreciate that feeling, and I know folks have been saying that for a while, and I get it. But like when we were actually watching the season, we were like, wow, like there are a few isekai, but there's a lot of other stuff too. But people are still, the impression that comes across is still very much that thing that, gosh, there's tons of isekai out there. So you're absolutely right. It's just funny how few isekai. Well, it's the same thing with the moe trend. You look at the number of moe series actually coming out versus everything else in the 2000s. It was only like maybe 10-20% of the anime being made were actually these moe series, but it felt like this tsunami of content. Which again it is. I mean, if it goes from 0 to 20%, over the course of a few years, it feels massive. Um, well, this gets into that interesting thing about geekdom, and I guess fandom in general. That once you identify a trend, it's easy to label anything in that trend as all being the same, right? It's the same thing we had. The same problem we had with sci-fi and fantasy for a long time, because there was a lot of light science fiction and fantasy, and it was kind of there's a lot of just kind of light entertainment in FNSF. When the general public saw another FNSF show, they assumed it was light entertainment, right? No one thought that science fiction was serious or that fantasy was serious until Lord of the Rings movies, basically. It was just assumed that it was always going to be cheesy swords, and yeah, there's a lot, but still. So I wonder if it's that thing where we know what isekai is as a concept, and so we all kind of assume, okay, it's isekai, it's just going to be that thing. Yeah, and that's the other thing, JJ. If you're into isekai, one of my good friends, one of my D&D players, loves isekai. He doesn't watch all of them by any stretch, but he likes that genre, and so he seeks them out, and he's loving the flood. Um, so yeah, humans are pattern matching machines, and that is to our benefit a lot of the times, but also to our detriment often when we kind of when we're like, oh, pattern identified, and thus everything is slotted into those patterns. It's what causes all sorts of problems with humans, where we label other humans because they all belong to a certain category. But it's also how we survive, right? We pattern matching is what allows civilization. It's what allows huge amounts of conveniences and such. But yeah. So yeah, I think we've nailed it. It's that people see what that is. Yeah, that's another point. JJ, is that no one seems to complain about the fantasy world with a teenage boy who is supernaturally strong or powerful, and who beats up all of his enemies, right? While still being a decent guy. Um, for some reason, the shonen formula doesn't seem to show any signs of stopping, despite how many of those there are. Um, it's just what some folks are willing to stomach, and what others aren't. Um, that is odd. I wonder. So now let's ask the question that we always will have to ask at this point. Um, yeah, that's the thing, Gorilla. So you don't like isekai. Like, there are lots of things I don't like, but I don't care. So given the trend, let's map things out. I'm going to ask the question, what's going to be the next trend after isekai? But in order to inform that, let's look at the trends. The 90s was an era of a lot of weird experimental, sort of out there anime. I call it the science fantasy decade, right? Where you had a lot of weird plots, weird concepts, strange settings. Not experimental necessarily in the kind of like experimental art way necessarily, but inventive, I think would be a good word for the 90s. Then the 2000s came along and we got this, the Moe trend, which was very much a return to a simpler time, much simpler stories, where you can kind of retreat to a fantasy of high school days where there are a bunch of cute girls around you or cute guys around you. And it's, oh, which one will I end up with? It's very much a comfort food kind of a medium, right? So you got that. Utano was mid 90s, so very much weird science fantasy. And then we have, and Moe then sort of shifted in the late 2000s with Haruhi and then like Madoka Magica and so forth, and we started getting actual plot in the Moe. And then we get isekai, right? And so isekai I would argue represent a desire for a more exciting life. People who are not necessarily discontent with their lot, but who want to imagine adventure, right? They're no longer content with the idea of kind of retreating to that teenage adolescent fantasy life, but they want to imagine being the hero. But they need some kind of push. It needs to be not, you are chosen by the Prime Minister of Japan or whatever. You literally just die. You have no choice but to be this hero because you were reincarnated. So you have that as sort of the big trend, which implies the next trend would be another more conservative sense, not in the political sense, but another more calming thing than isekai. So what genre might represent that? Comedy? Might goofy comedy be the next big genre? Something we can just laugh at? Food, definitely. And I could see food expanding as being, again, sort of I mentioned comfort food before. Everyone loves food. Everyone loves experiencing food. We could see a big thing. Yeah, ASMR anime. Who knows? There are stranger things in the world. So yeah, I could see that. I could see a rise of these sort of weirdly comfortable fantasy series like Made in Abyss or even like Girls Last Tour, where it's set in a potentially dangerous fantasy or sci-fi setting, but it's still kind of ultimately a slice of life kind of a story. I don't know. Possible. Certainly those got some excitement. Kimono Friends arguably is a sci-fi slice of life show, so, comedy kind of thing. Historical nostalgia, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the thing is, to me, Yuru Camp is basically a Moe series. It's more of a throwback to the 2000s era Moe series, just with no guy, with no hero protagonist. Certainly could happen to have that. That would actually be interesting. So it could be Moe, again, Moe blended with the healing anime concept. So it is, cute girls, but there's something happening, right? There's a skill being involved, a hobby involved, some kind of thing they're dealing with. That would be interesting. That kind of a concept. There was an anime from a year or two ago that was like 3 elementary school girls who solve little not crimes, but they're like detectives in their neighborhood. It's very cute and slice of life-ish, but they fancy themselves as little detectives, and they go and they find lost dogs and stuff like that. And it was very very healing anime type. It'd be interesting to see that kind of a thing where it's more a little nostalgic. History theater kind of mixed with comedy. Oh, you know what? Historical comedy would be really interesting. To have sort of funny takes on history. I really, really, really love Ninja Girl and Samurai Master, which is exactly that. Just short episodes about Oda Nobunaga in a super deformed, cutesy, ridiculous style. Yeah, they had a club in a clubhouse. That's the one. I just forget the name of it. I really enjoyed episode one, but just there were other things competing for my attention at that time. So yeah, but again, we may go in a completely different direction. So just because we went, calm, or kind of exciting, calm, exciting, doesn't mean the next thing is necessarily going to be calm. It's going to be, it could be something sort of orthogonal to those things. Might be more cerebral anime or more action anime. Action anime is always tough though because it's expensive. So you can have action animation if you're pouring money into it for like a Naruto or a One Piece, but it's hard to nail that down otherwise. Romance mythology, I love it. Let's do that. Let's be honest. The mythology has a lot of romance in it. Apollo got around, Zeus got around, Zeus especially. Any given form you can think of, that was Zeus getting it on with the ladies. Would be fun to see some anime that deals with specifically Japanese like religion and mythology too. So more stuff around that. Musical anime. That could be it too. I mean, obviously we've had plenty of successful musical anime series of late, and we've already had our big twist on that with the Zombie Idol series. So it was kind of the Haruhi Suzumiya of Idol series. That'd be cool. 'Cause I'd love to see musical series that are not just idol groups either, where it's kids in a band, kids in a symphony orchestra, all those things. Beck was a wonderfully unusual take on that because it felt very real. Yeah, I'd love to see more Japanese folklore, and it's certainly out there. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that stuff that could be explored in interesting ways. And I love to kind of go. I love for them to go deep on stuff. One of the reasons I loved the Eccentric Family is that it kind of goes deep on Tanuki. And there's some of the other mythological animals, but it really, these are Tanuki, as that classic folkloric beast. College life, certainly possible. We haven't seen a lot of college anime. There's only a handful of anime actually set at college, other than certain adult series that are set in college. But yeah, college is definitely I think an era rife for exploration. It is an odd kind of liminal space in Japanese life. It's this sort of breather between adolescence and adulthood, which is one of the reasons I think it doesn't get adapted into anime that much, because it is kind of this weird middle ground. It's not quite as intense as the high school days where you're planning for college life, but it's also not the kind of the normal structured life that you get when you graduate college. But I think that makes it also fertile ground. Again, there's you can get into weirdnesses, Oh yeah, world crossovers like Gate. I think that has a lot of potential actually. I'm actually listening to an audiobook of a D&D novel in the Ravenloft series, which is actually incredible. And it actually deals with this idea of this sort of pocket dimension in which other little chunks of reality are starting to glom onto and getting fused onto and trying to deal with what that means. And it's actually exactly what that is. And there's a lot of interesting story potential there where you're exploring, okay, now we have to live together. Now these people are here. And even if the people stay at peace, the available resources have changed, right? Technology levels are different. Suddenly there are, a land with a lot of mountains come in. Now there's a lot more ore and a lot more minerals available for folks to get. So that could be a really cool thing. And there's lots of things you could explore in multiple different series along that way. Honestly, I love to see more anime series set in shared universes too. Um, I loved watching Rune Soldier Louie, which is a goofy D&D comedy esque thing, where like 2/3 of the way through the series, um, the cleric's sort of mentor returns to the land and just mentions in passing that she has just returned from Lodos, which is the country from Record of Lodos War. And I was like, oh, this is set in the same universe as Lodos War. Interesting, and things combine. Um, Ooh, yeah, Gorilla. I think business anime that could go places. We get a little bit of that in High School Prodigies, actually. I'd love to see them dealing with that because you can do a lot of genres that way. You can do business. You can do you can be very comedic. Have fun with that. You could explore um, how people relate to each other in that. How to make relationships in business. Um, Huge. I think if Dilbert's taught us anything, is that there's a lot of potential in business for the various storylines. Heck, there's a baseball anime that is themed around explaining to folks how Drucker's book on management works. Um, this being Drucker's management being a very famous treatise on business management, and they made this baseball anime out of it. Go figure. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's certainly plenty of Japanese businesses too. So, there's tons of cultures to explore. I would think within the business sphere, and all that. Hmm. All right. I think we've explored that topic in some interesting detail. Thank you all for the ideas there. Anything else you want to talk about before we jump over to the stream? So I gotta figure out what that is. So 1 second while I scroll back up to figure out what I'd actually be doing. There it is. Okay. Mitsubishi Colors. Thank you, JJ. That's the one. The crime-solving little girls. Another one to put on the queue at some point. My Crunchyroll queue is absurdly long. I don't think it's even on Crunchyroll, but still. All right. In that case, I think we will switch over to the stream. So I'm going to post in the Discord in a few minutes here a link to a SciTube channel, and we're going to try watching anime on that. We're going to see what happens. Unfortunately, comedy is a bit too big to a bit too big of a topic for me to tackle at this point tonight. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this stream. Thank you all very much for being involved. Yeah, keep an eye on the Discord, and we'll watch some anime here in a second. See you in a bit. Watch more anime.